You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Hey, I'm Ray Parker. I played Darth Maul in Phantom Menace and Solo, A Star Wars Story, and G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes, and you're listening to Disney Universe Podcast.
We would be honored if you would join us.
To infinity and beyond!
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing. That was all started by a mouse.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 146 of the Disney Universe Podcast. This is your favorite, or one of your favorite Disney adult podcasts, brought to you by the Walt's Apartment Podcast group and family. I am one of your hosts, Joey, and joining me today is one of my co-hosts, Alex. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, just getting ready to start Advent calendar season. I'm excited for Friday. Other than that, stuffed from the Thanksgiving holiday and full of family, food, football, is good things.
Sweet. That's awesome. Same here, pretty much, except I haven't got my Advent calendar yet, so I got to jump on that before.
I just have mine that I never got into last year. So
that works.
I got halfway through December. I was like, I'll just save it for next year. So
why not? But Ryan's not with us today, but we have a very awesome and very special guest. I've always wanted to talk about Walt, since we're so close to his birthday. That's Walt Disney, for those of you that did not catch that that one there. But we have who I think is probably the best guest to have. You've heard him on the Tiki Cast. Man of many talents, author, artist, former Jungle Cruise skipper, Disney historian, awesome podcast to one of my favorite podcasts, The Jungle. Dr. David Skipper Marley. Welcome to the main Disney Universe show, sir. How you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be up to the major leagues now.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
You and Trevor, your co-host, you jumped right into the majors. Quick plug. Like I said, I love your guys' podcast. When you guys started it, I was like, why did this take so long for you two to come out with this amazing podcast? It's perfect.
I'm the reason.
And you're the reason.
He tried for years, like literally for 4 years at least, to try to get me to do one. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing a podcast. No. And I'm like, yeah, okay. All right. That's yeah. All right.
And I mean,
you wore me down.
You guys are just natural. Like I said, it's such a fun listen. It's hilarious. I'm glad I don't drive right now at work, because I don't have to worry about crashing, laughing into any traffic or old women or children. So we could talk more about that, but I thank you. Like I said, you're not only all the Jungle Cruise stuff, but you are a Disney historian. You got a master's in American history, so you are in your teaching office. You look like Dr. Jones right now. So
I do, right? Yeah.
But before we get to our conversation, we got a little bit of what we call mousekeeping. It's kind of our little plug, not plugs, but our thank yous and shares. So of course we couldn't do this podcast or a YouTube without very special people we'd love to thank. We call them our crew. Alex is going to shout them out, and they got some special fun stuff coming soon, I believe.
There's always fun stuff coming for the crew, I believe. But yeah, we definitely appreciate those people who like to stick around and enjoy what we're doing and want to contribute to, letting us know it's a good time, because that makes us want to make it an even greater time. We call that group of people the DU crew. As always, we want to shout out you, and that is Sean, John, Alfredo, Sasquatch, Jen, and Florida Jen, Monique, Tyler, and Wedge Antilles coming through, rounding out our crew. If you want to join those people and get great perks like seeing videos of our audio podcasts that aren't going to be posted, or early content, or even from our summer drive, we got the first batch of Hatbox Goat t-shirts out to the world. They have yet to get there, but those people will be getting them hopefully before Christmas. So join the crew and find out what's next that can be coming to you. And that's patreon.com/DU crew. Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, if you're new to the show, you found us on the Walt's Apartment feed. Be sure to follow us and interact with us on Instagram, X, Facebook, kind of on Threads. I don't know if that's still a thing, but we're there. And of course, YouTube. That's at the DUTV. I've been uploading some recent Disney trip videos, and I found some old yesteryear type videos. I might throw those in there too. So, but definitely check that out. We're growing there. And if you're looking for some cool swag to wear around the parks or just around, that's Disney themed, Star Wars, Marvel, check out our good friends at Neverland Trading. They have a nice little discount and awesome holiday themed shirts. And you just go into the promo code at checkout and type in DVERS, that's DVERSC, for a nice little discount and get you something nice. But right. Yeah, let's just get into this. Before we get to the Walt Talk, I'll just call it Walt Talk right now instead of TED Talk. David, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your sites and all your good funness you got going on?
Yeah. Geez, where do I start? Like my tragic backstory.
Sure, why not? Your origin story. We'll call that.
My villain origin story. No, I'm a former Jungle Cruise skipper. I worked at Disneyland for about 3.5 years, and I'm also a professor. I teach at Cal State Fullerton. That's how I got the nickname Dr. Skipper when I was at Jungle Cruise. Very super clever nickname, right? They put those two things together, and it was a great job. I think my favorite job of all time, and it's clearly taken over my life because I teach a class on Disneyland. I've written books about Disneyland. I give talks on your podcast about Disneyland. So it's it's been a big part of my life since I was a little kid growing up in Orange County. It was literally right down the street from us. Yeah. So I make art, I write books, I give talks around the country all about Disney stuff.
Yeah. And I love your books, Skipper Stories and More Skipper Stories.
Thank you.
For those who are not aware, and you should be, because I know me and Jungle Cruiser Corey from All Aboard have talked about it plenty of times, but it's basically, as it says in the title, Skipper Stories. You got skippers from the 50s, 60s, all the way to current, telling their stories in great chapters and categories. So
thank you.
Pretty some funny anecdotes and essays.
Thank you. It's the most fun project I've ever done. It's just a blast to meet all these skippers from every generation and to hear their stories and realize like they tell stories from the 50s and 60s about experiences that I had in the 2000s. And it was like, we were on the same dock having the same problems with guests or boats, or it was like a cool bonding experience with these guys who were working there before I was even born. And yet we have this shared experience. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Cause reading the book and listening to the podcast and, getting to know you over the couple years, you really notice not with skippers compared to any other cast members on attractions. It is Jungle Cruise seems to have that really deep fraternity, like compared to somebody working Tomorrowland or Main Street. So I mean, you see that to the day because you and Trevor never worked together, right? You guys?
No, we did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We worked together for like his 1 year there. He was already there when I started. Yeah. So it was like maybe 8 or 9 months we worked together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that wrong. So.
That's right. We became good friends when we started doing the stand-up comedy show. When I started running that, that's where we really began to hang out.
Yeah. Which needs to come back just for what I've heard on the podcast. So
it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. And of course, listeners, you can definitely get a lot more Skipper Stories either through the books or the podcast, The Jungle. Every episode is great Skipper Stories and just madness.
Yeah. I love it. I love that chaos. It was so much fun. But you're right. It is a unique bonding experience to be a skipper than some of the other attractions. We were like, yeah, I pushed those buttons too. Yeah, I did that ride.
Yeah.
I put the lap bar down and hit go. Where we always tried to help each other have better boats and do new jokes. And yeah, it was more like a family trying to help each other.
Very cool.
I can totally see that too. It's hard to, I can't think of any other attraction that would have a similar sort of camaraderie as you do bring a bit of yourself to the ride. I see some little bits, obviously, with Tower of Terror and Monsters After Dark over there at Guardians of the Galaxy, and also now with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Obviously not the amount of personal touch, but they do have little bits of dialogue and touch they get to add to it. And then, of course, Kilimanjaro over there in Florida, but not as much comedy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really cool how you say that you can automatically have this bond with someone, who was doing the same thing 30 years prior.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Those guys that worked there in the 70s, I legitimately feel like they're friends of mine. And we tell some of the exact same wild stories about pranks we did. And it's like, did you ever put this in the water? Yeah, I did. And did you ever go here and like hide behind this? And it's just weird that we had that same experience. Yeah.
And you mentioned a couple times, like, didn't you guys like at close used to like race backwards or something or through the jungle? Or
what they used to do in the 70s, they had a small boat called a skiff, a little outboard motor.
Oh, that's right.
And they would use that to go fix boats during downtimes. And you would race it through the jungle, but you had to take it backwards, like through the backside of water to the hippo pool. So you just had to go on the same track, but backwards. And they would time each other to see how fast they could do it. So it got sunk one too many times because I worked there for a summer in the mid 90s and the skiff was there. And I came back in 2002. They're like, oh yeah, they took the skiff out because people kept sinking it.
Yeah.
So
it's a little expensive to try to repair the thing that's supposed to repair.
Exactly. Yeah. I know 2 different skippers that drove it right into the waterfall and sunk it.
Oh gosh.
On 2 separate occasions. And then on both times they just emptied the water out and parked it and pretended like nothing happened.
That's awesome. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along.
Like maintenance isn't going to figure that out,
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen one day at Disney, the people that work at the third shift. So.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that about your page that I love is a lot of people would post stuff like, Matterhorn Monday or Small World Saturday or, Walt Wednesday and just do a picture and like, hey, it's Walt. But you took that to the next level. And I love it. And I there's got to be a collection of these, like in a book or something. You got your Walt Wednesdays, which are just basically just funny memes with Walt. And I should have pulled some up. I don't know. You got some favorite ones off the top of your head
what do I like? There's one that I like that I didn't even realize where I got it from. During the Thanksgiving break, I watched the movie Mean Girls with my daughters.
Oh.
And there's all these lines. I'd never seen it before. And there's all these lines in the movie that I've used before. Because I have one picture with Walt. He's driving the Jungle Cruise boat. He's like, "Get in, loser. We're telling jokes and shooting hippos."
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd heard that phrase, "Get in, loser," but I didn't know where. So I'm watching the movie and she pulls up, "Get in, loser. We're going shopping." And I'm like, oh my God, that's where I got that from. I just knew it as a meme. And so, that's a lot of fun. Although I found out I have to make them really wild and outrageous, or else people start to think they're real.
Yeah. So I'm just sharing some of the recent ones. This one cracked me up. Sorry, this isn't on YouTube. I'm going to word it for our audio listeners, but it's Walt with his, I used to call this just the Pinocchio prince hat from the 60s with a giant feather.
Yeah.
And you wrote, Walt would often tour the park in disguise in order to see how things are going. He just has a hat on, which is
like no Prince Philip looking.
Yeah. The giant pink hat with a giant pink feather. Who would notice that? Nobody.
My computer froze. But I was trying to find one. I was going to share with Alex, but it was the 420 themed.
Oh yeah, you know what I've discovered? People don't like the drug ones. Like if I do a joke about Walt and drugs, people get very upset. Like they don't get upset, but they don't like it. So like, okay, I gotta stop. That one, okay. There's some of the ones I like are ones that aren't necessarily popular, but if you scroll back up a bit, there's one of Walt. Oh yeah, that's good.
We're both beer guys here, so it's Walt pointing. Was that Roy?
It's just some other. I don't know who they are. Just a couple other executives. But I look at the photos. I'm like, he's like the beer bottles were this high.
And you got dates, so it's like people are like, "Oh, that must have really happened."
Yeah. So that's why I like then in the explanation part, I try to go into more detail to make it clear that I'm just making it up. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I skipped by one you wanted to share.
There it is, the black and white one in the center there. I don't know why this just cracks me up. Let us picture Walt by himself. Disneyland is my land. He's just like, yeah. While people are waiting to get in, he's just like, no.
You know how much I paid for this?
Yeah, like I don't know why, but that one just cracks me up. So
yeah. Do you got some you just got waiting for certain holidays or months? Or
I have a file on my phone that is just Walt Wednesday photos, and I go through books and anywhere I can find photos. I have this huge collection, and I just every like Tuesday I just sit and scroll through them and like, okay, what'll work? What's funny? You know, sometimes it comes right away, and sometimes it takes me forever.
Yeah.
So I think it was the one today for Matterhorn Monday. The kind of framing of the mountain and the caption reading, falling from the top of this frame is the only thing that hurts more than riding the actual ride.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Once they added in those new bobsleds, they hurt.
Oh man. It's you have to have a back injury to get it fixed. Otherwise, if you don't have a back injury, you'll leave with one.
Yeah.
And both you guys are like super tall too. So and I get crunched up in them. So I can imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. A buddy of mine is an inch taller than I am. So he's super tall. And he's like, yeah, if you're over 6 foot, this is no longer the attraction for you. He's like, give it a shot. And I even sat in there. I'm like, I can barely fit in this thing. So it was, it makes it more painful if such a thing as possible.
Yeah. I still miss the cuddle seats and
a
lot more room. But yeah, definitely check out, for our listeners, check out Dr. Skipper's Instagram for Walt Wednesdays. Funny shit. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of Walt, like I said, that's kind of like our main topic today. It's a time where a lot of people, Disney fans and, podcasters and people, always like to share Walt's birthday, and we get all happy and like, this, 130 something. Anyways, I'm way off bet on dates, but then so close after is also the date of his passing. So, it's kind of like, but I figure we could talk a little bit about his life. So you being a historian and
sure.
Even I know you can't talk too much about it, but you're going to be coming up on a special from History Channel.
History Channel, yeah.
About Walt. So looking forward to seeing that hopefully real soon. But do you have any favorite like Walt stories or anything in general, or like something you use in some of your talks?
I think my like overall all-time favorite Walt story that I think like shows who he is he wanted to build the Matterhorn and the monorail and the submarine. He wanted to do it all at once. And he shows it to Roy because Walt was the idea guy and Roy was the money guy. And he's like, I want to build all these things. And Roy says, no, we don't. We just paid off all the debt. We got to wait. No. And then he left for a month to go to Europe. And this is before cell phones. So he's like gone, like out of contact. And so I guess the day after Roy leaves, Walt walks over to Imagineering and he's like, build it. And they're like, how is he going to pay for it? And he's like, that's Roy's problem when he comes back. So by the time Roy comes back, they're already clearing the ground and they've ordered all this stuff and they're building it. And Roy was not happy, but he's like, pay for it, find a way.
Yeah.
I want new stuff. Yeah. And so that I love that story because you can't picture an executive doing that to anybody but their own brother,
Oh, exactly. Especially with the communications Nowadays, you know.
Oh yeah, it would take years, and there'd be all kinds of meetings and studies. He's like, build it. Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories. Yeah, my other favorite story I learned when I was working on my Jungle Cruise history book was that at night, like Walt's apartment is right behind where the hippo pool is, and he didn't like to smoke where people could see him, but he would go out there and watch the boats go around at night. And a skipper said sometimes you'd pull into the hippo pool at night, and you knew where you would stand, and you would see the little glow from a cigarette light, like puff, and you knew Walt was there in the jungle watching you do your routine. And he goes, so you were always like really careful and like try to be good and funny because you knew the boss was right there watching you. Yeah,
like a hunter.
Yeah, right. Right.
Is a sniper.
That's fun to think of him standing there watching the boats go by. Yeah.
I didn't even think. I forgot because. Yeah, I mean, I was able to do one year I got I was lucky enough to get selected to do try a food tasting behind Carnation Cafe, and it wound up being for Flo's when Tarzan was being built.
Oh wow!
So they take us to the back and literally go around the corner. It's like right there, right on the other side of the door is the Jungle Cruise. So you're like. Yeah. I mean, it's close because you can hear the guns going off, but I did not realize it's like literally on the other side of the door. And I just.
But they took you back there.
Yeah. Took us to like this little area to try the food where we recorded.
Yeah.
And before the land opened, it happened like in the February or March, and they're testing the food for flow. So.
How interesting. Yeah. Back in my day, they never let guests back there.
Yeah.
Because that was our hangout place. And I used to take my trainees, we would sit on one of the boats backstage, and that's where I would go over all the stuff and show them where the engine was and how to run the boat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once or twice I took a nap back there.
Once or twice. And they even paid us for eating, which was unheard of.
Wow. First of all, Disney giving you free food, unheard of, and then paying you to eat food, unheard of.
Exactly.
You got a twofer right there.
Did you get to have anything that didn't make the menu?
Most of it made the menu, but most of it was served on like a Texas toast, which didn't happen when the restaurant opened.
Okay.
Yeah, it's California, not Texas. What do you think?
Yeah.
Right.
It was good though. I like Texas toast, but obviously you work in Jungle Cruise and Adventureland was a very tender spot for Walt. Like we see footage of him all over the lands, but some of the most iconic photos of him, even more than Fantasyland, is him on the Jungle Cruise, him in the in Tiki Room.
Yeah.
So I mean, did you kind of feel that little extra Waltness, I guess, when you're working Jungle Cruise? Or
oh yeah, and we were obnoxious about it. Well, first of all, we were obnoxious because we were one of Walt's originals, as we called it. Like, Indy, you've been here since the 90s. Like Walt Disney was in our attraction. So we already bragged about that. And we felt very special. And there was an argument about were we his favorite attraction or not. When I worked on my book, I was able to find out, like from Mark Davis and a few other sources, he said the Jungle Cruise was his favorite. And it's the one he spent the most time at when he visited the park.
Yeah.
So take that, other places. Take that, Star Tours. Yeah. So we felt that it was fun to work there and have that connection to the past. But I'm a historian. I should love the past, right? So
of course, it makes sense that it was his favorite when his apartment's just overlooking it too. I mean,
right? Yeah. Yeah. I think it was his son-in-law, Ron Miller, who said, although at night they would get sick of hearing the drums and the natives all night long till like midnight or 1 when they shut the ride down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that, I would guess that is your favorite opening day attraction as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Joe?
Favorite opening day attraction? Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I'd have to say Jungle Cruise.
I could definitely see it being Walt's and why it's Walt's, and it's a great, but not to just be a contrarian, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for me.
That's a good ride.
I've always had as a bartender, I love seeing Winky flip those beers in there.
Amazing.
It's just a crazy story. But yeah, I think that's cool. And another interesting bond you'd have with specific other rides around the park, but not all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like Mr. Toad's because it's not a super hugely famous movie either. And yet it's got this fun attraction. And Florida took it out. What the hell, Florida? But we've still got it out here in California.
Well, it's funny because last time I was in Florida, one of our friends, Discord Apparel, shout out, they would do shirts that matched up Disney with like heavy metal group. So I had a Mr. Toad / Slayer shirt.
Oh, no way.
And I wore it when I was in Florida, and they were selling the Mr. Toad popcorn buckets.
Huh.
Before they came to Disneyland.
Which made no sense.
That
so
make no sense.
Like, yeah. So people
rubbing it in. rubbing popcorn salt in the wound, if you will.
Right?
So
yeah, they took it out to build Little Mermaid, right?
I think it was Winnie the Pooh for that one, no?
Oh, that hurts if they got Winnie the Pooh for Toad. That's a downgrade.
I think Snow White came out for Little Mermaid.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that. Because they don't have Snow White anymore either.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, I think because there's a picture somewhere in Winnie the Pooh that has Mr. Toad in it.
I was always mad that we lost Country Bears to get Winnie the Pooh. As much as I love Winnie the Pooh, I'm glad we didn't lose Mr. Toad. So I think we got the better end of that deal.
Yeah. I knew a guy that worked at Country Bears, and he loved it. Because I'm like, so you just have to start the show every once in a while? He's like, oh, no, if you play it right, you don't have to do anything. He's like, the show's just on automatic. And if you load the guests in quick enough and get the doors closed, it will just start on a timer. He goes, it was the best. We didn't do any work.
And it was nice and cool in there all the time.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go.
That's why the west side of the park is about 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the east side of the park in the summer. It's noticeably different because it's all metal and steel and shiny. And we got trees and water. So, yeah.
Yeah, I heard you say that one time. And it hit me like, oh, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Why
especially
would be like
Tomorrowland.
Yeah. And with you being a professor doing talks, you've done talks on like Disneyland and Walt. One I really was looking forward to. I wanted to go to the Tiki Oasis in Arizona, but you did a really cool what Corey and you guys were talking about it, but Walt and his like Polynesian influence, basically. Can you tell us a little bit about your presentation?
That's a fun talk. I'll be giving that same talk at Inuele in Atlanta this January.
Oh,
January
nice.
2024. Yeah, so I'll be repeating it there. But it's a talk where I show the history of the Tiki gods because I thought they were all just made up. They just invented them. And then I did just a little bit of research and found out, nope, they're all real, all based on real things. And then I did a deep dive. I found all these books and like the museum exhibits they came from. And like a lot of them aren't what they're supposed to be. Like the Tiki babies that hang down. Like one of them is from New Guinea. It's like a god for fishermen that they put on the bow of their boat. Now it's a Tiki baby. And so all these different carvings and things and where they came from in their history. And it's a lot of fun. The weird thing about that talk is I have one of the pictures I have is the shag painting of the Tiki Room from like the 40th anniversary of the Tiki Room. And so that was just one of my slides. And I'm getting ready for my talk. And the people that run Tiki Oasis come in and they have shag with them.
Oh, nice.
And they just sit like in the third row. And I'm like, oh, crap. I got one of his slides and I'm going to talk about him. And I was momentarily terrified that he's there. I'm like, oh, crap, Shag, I like your work. And now I'm talking about it. And here you are.
In the front row.
He had no idea I was going to talk about his art and how it relates to, yeah. So, but that's the talk I give. And it's a lot of fun. It was the one that took me the most research to get done to find out where everything came from.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I saw the video. I think you shared it that somebody grabbed your phone and showed you the line out the door for this talk, which I mean, and I've mentioned it before, but like what got me into like Tiki and like the whole like escapism has been growing up, Disneyland, Tahitian Terrace when it was open, the show that was at the Disneyland Hotel. I mean, this stuff was like as a kid plus Blue Hawaii, so it's like, I'm like Disney and Tiki and adventure just goes hand in hand to me.
Right. Yeah.
In Arizona, it was proof that, I mean, you had line going out the wazoo.
Thanks. I'm going to repost that because that's my favorite video of the year. Because it was there was about 10 minutes before the talk started, and the room was empty.
Oh. There
were like maybe 3 people, and I couldn't see a line out in the little lobby, and I'm like, oh crap! And they're like, don't worry about it. And then the lady, it's a husband and wife that run the Tiki Oasis.
Yeah.
But Baby Doe comes in. She's one of the people that runs it. She walks in, looks at the room. No. More chairs. And I'm like sitting there thinking, oh my God, is no one going to be here? And then they start bringing out more chairs. And I'm like, okay. And then that flood of people came in. I'm like, oh, all right, we're good. So,
nice. And I laughed because Corey, Jungle Cruiser, made an appearance in that video. And it's funny because he's the only person in that line that wasn't wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. He stood out like a sore thumb. So.
That's mandatory for a Tiki Oasis event.
Oh yeah, that's what I was telling him. He was wearing his Jungle Cruise baseball jersey though.
I will let that slide. I don't know if anybody else would, but in my talks, that's totally fine.
And have you done any other like Disney themed talks or Walt themed or?
Yeah, I've given a bunch of them. I give talks on like the history of Disneyland itself. I've given talks on like the plants of Disneyland, where those have come from. I do it on the history of the Jungle Cruise. There's a new Tiki Tiki event called Tiki A Go-Go that's going to be in Orlando this April. This is their second one, I guess. And I'm going to be doing a talk there on the Jungle Cruise moving east and like what's different between the California version and the Florida version. So
a cave. The cave.
The cave, right? Yeah, where they just stop talking.
Yeah.
They're like here, then silence, and then they go back to talking. It's odd, but I found out why that happens. So I've given a number of talks on a lot of different Disney topics because I taught that history of Disneyland class. I can pretty much cover anything. I even did a talk once on weeds at Disneyland. This group of horticulture experts that focus on weeds said, hey, could you talk about Disney plants? I'm like, sure. Could you focus on weeds? I'm like, weeds? Sure. So I have friends that work horticulture. I called them and said, hey, what weed stories do you have for me? And so they told me some good ones. So
I was going to say, for how well manicured Disneyland is, we don't see weeds, but obviously the people who are keeping it up do. So that'd be interesting. I actually did the Cultivating the Magic tour, the horticulture tour of Disneyland, which I don't know if that's still going, but was that something happening when you were there? Did you have any input on that, or?
I have no input on any of that kind of stuff. They started it well after I left, but it was one of the tours I always wanted to do.
My friend was really into, plants and horticulture. We just happened to be there, so we decided to do it for our birthday, and it was a blast.
That's cool. Yeah, I would actually like to do that. I'd sit in the back and be quiet. I wouldn't say a word, so I'd behave myself.
Yeah, I just recently did the Happiest Haunts tour, and it really focused on just everything at Disneyland they really talk about the first, the 100 years. So the parks, the films, the different like scary stuff. So when they took us in front of the Mickey, the floral arrangement in the front, they actually really dive deep in I can never pronounce it, but the horticulture.
There you go.
The plant stuff.
Horticulture. You said
it. Thank you. They really dive deep into like how, the daily upkeep, and then when they switch it over for the holidays and the number of teams and like the army it takes to, do it, and how they're growing. Like even it was October and they were working on the poinsettias since like August or December and stuff. So it was really cool that it wasn't the full tour, but that they were able to just mention it for the quick little 10-minute part of the tour. So it was nice to get that in there.
And that was a cool thing, even about working there. I had a back-to-back shift. So I closed it and then I opened it. So I remember walking through by the Tiki room to pick up our buddy who was working there, but walked by one of the planners. And then I was there the next morning and it was completely different. Like they'd pulled out every plant and it was filled with brand new flowers that already looked like they'd been there forever. And I was like, wow, that was quick. That was not even 8 hours. And it just looks, and every once in a while, you'll just notice a whole new section was just there. And that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I've done that where I mean, just like I was there one day and it was Halloween, then it was literally November 1st. I went for my niece and it was boom, Christmas. Like the pumpkin was gone, the tree was up. I mean,
wow.
That was
they do that pretty quick. I think it's like 13 months out of the year. It's all themed for some holiday now. It's like,
yeah,
it's a lot. Yeah. Halloween and Christmas. They go nuts.
Joe, well, I just wanted to, because you mentioned the history of Disney talks that you've done. And before we came on, I mentioned that I saw through your link tree, you have a whole history of Disneyland Part 1 course online. Yeah. And I don't know if this coincides with what you teach in person, if there's a history of Disney course you can take in person. But yeah, it's a history of Disneyland during Walt's life.
Yeah.
Just what it's broken down into: the world before Disneyland, planning Disneyland, building Disneyland, opening Disneyland, Disneyland during the 50s, Disneyland during the 60s, and Lost Disneyland. And at least for me, that's enough, to get me hanging on. I'm excited to get in there and see what that's all about. But what would you say? I guess, is that a specific point in the history of Disneyland that you chose to zero in on, or is I guess what made you decide to do it specifically on the time while Walt was around?
That's really the first third of my history of Disneyland class,
which is true. It's part 1. I didn't think about that.
It's just on Walt. Yeah, and I thought people put everything else. I'm like, well, if number 1 becomes popular enough, then I'll do number 2 and do number 3, because the second half is about the park after Walt's life, and then I talk about California Adventure, and then the third section of the class is where I bring in Imagineers and people that work like in entertainment in different fields, and so they can experience what the park is actually like and how things are run, and that's always a lot of fun. Yeah,
it'd be very interesting. I'm sorry, I was going to say it'd be very interesting to see someone who had never been to Disneyland take the whole course and then experience the parks.
Right? Yeah, I wonder if they'd be confused watching it. Yeah. So
I mean, that sounds awesome. I definitely want to check it out myself. So I know Alex.
It is on udemy.com. I do not know what that stands for yet, but I will find out at some point, as I am very intrigued. Obviously, when you're listening to this, Cyber Monday will have passed, but I have assurances that the price goes up and down on it all the time. So just wait and watch until you see some numbers that fit your pocketbook, and invest in some knowledge on something that you love and care about. That's what I'm looking forward to doing.
They call it udemy.com or Udemy. They pronounce it both ways.
Udemy makes sense because the knowledge is coming from Udemy.
Udemy. I think that's the original way. But they said you can also call it Udemy, like whatever gets you to go to their website. So and they put it on sale a lot. I'm making no money on that class.
It sounds like you dummy. Like, learn this, you dummy.
Hey, you dummy. Yeah.
Was this class born of in-person class that you taught?
Yep. I used to teach in person. It was a summer school class. It was very, very popular. As you might imagine, we had the best field trip ever. And then it looks like I might be teaching it in a year here at Cal State Fullerton in their honors program. Wow. It's not confirmed, but they've asked me to pitch it and set it up. And, but that would be something that would probably go in late 2024 if it happens. So that would be fun.
It's definitely the first class I'd ever be excited for a test on.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Bring it on.
Well, that one, I didn't have any tests, but I did have a lot of papers that you had to write.
Yeah.
And I made it. I mean, I have a reputation for being a tougher professor, and I made this one tough because I didn't want people going, "Oh, Disneyland, this will be easy." Like, I don't got to do any work. So I made them work for it. And yeah, you gotta get your money's worth out of your education. So
we both can vouch for that. Just not for teaching, but trivia. We've both hosted Disney themed trivias at different breweries, and people have come up to me, and people recently came up to Alex when he was hosting, like, "Damn, that was hard." They're like, "Well, we don't want to be like, what color's the castle?
Right? What color is Space Mountain?"
Yeah, you guys do that in Sacramento?
Yeah, Joe was doing it semi-frequently, different subjects and stuff. And at the brewery I work, I said the only trivia I'll do is Disney because it's the only thing I know enough about to put questions out. But like you say, and it's one of those things when it's something that you're interested in and passionate about, it's really hard to kind of find the barometer on where a mid-range question is, you know.
I was at a tiki show and they were having a trivia night, and it was Disney trivia night one night. So I went, and none of my friends wanted to go. So I went by myself, and there was a table filled with people and a table mostly filled with people and then an empty one. So I sat at the empty one, and I kept winning. But they weren't announcing who was winning. They're like, okay, we have a winner. And then this girl walks in and saw her friends at the table. They went, you can't sit with us. Like, we're full. And they were kind of giving her a hard time. So I said, oh, you can join me. And she's like, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm kicking everybody's butt. and then the very next question it was about Alice in Wonderland. I had no clue. And she said, I watched this movie 3 days ago. Here's the answer. So we wrote it down. And he goes, one table has won the. And so when they later announced the points, we were so far ahead of everybody else. It was kind of fun because they started asking questions I didn't know, but she did. Like, she walked in at the perfect moment.
You had the good balance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have won if she hadn't shown up. Yeah.
The universe sending you a lifeline.
Yeah. So, right. So I would love to go to a Disney trivia night. That would be fun.
Therefore, yeah, I've seen some Disney cruise ship vlogs, and they seem to do a trivia on there. And I assume that would be a place where it would be very competitive. At least in my experience, just at the breweries, a lot of people specifically turn up for those Disney nights.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll do it again next year for Disneyland's birthday, but I'm going to try and get some other subjects in the meantime.
Well, on the cruise, Courtney, her and her sister did it, and they won trivia, and they actually get medals on the cruise.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Are they specific to trivia, or I get the medal for what it is? Just some old 5K medal they had lying around?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so hopefully I want to do that if I ever get
call it a mental 5K.
Yeah, exactly. In the brain. So I got kind of a question for both you guys, or it kind of ties in together. And it has, because I haven't been able to see it yet, but I just want Alex to kind of mention the new special on Disney Plus. That was Christmas with Walt. That was from Don Hahn. That was at the time made specifically for the Walt Disney Family Museum.
Still has the little crest on the beginning too.
Yeah, which is awesome. And then David, like, your talks sound like something that would be perfect for the museum. So since you're our guest, I'll start with you. But first of all, have you ever been to the museum in San Francisco?
I have, and okay. I love that museum. Love it.
Yeah, we were just there before MouseCon a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And has there ever been the opportunity to possibly do one of your presentations? Like,
there was a lady that wanted to have me come in, and I was very excited about it, and then she retired.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh, so I'm kind of, and then COVID hit. So I haven't approached them, but I think I will, because I think it would be a lot of fun. I think a lot of people would come, and it would be definitely be a blast.
You got two for sure. That'll be there. So we will start that hashtag.
All right. I would get a movement for MouseCon too. Would love to see you at MouseCon at some point.
I have mentioned to I don't know if I'm going to call you Dr. Skipper or David.
You can call me David.
But and we've been friends for a couple of years now. I still get confused sometimes.
Joey, we've had drinks together at the Jungle Bird. You call me David.
All right, that sounds good. Will do. But, what I was talking to you about, I think you would be a perfect guest, something new and fresh to MouseCon, and so hopefully we can get that. I know there's one in Bakersfield. You're recently at the Tiki Co. in Bakersfield that I wanted to go to, but it's just a bad weekend. But selling your art and books and everything. But no, I would love to see your presentation at the Family Museum. It would be amazing. And right. that is a great place.
I'll hit him up again.
Awesome. Well, you let us know.
I will stop being lazy.
Yeah. But yeah, because they're up and running full go now. So,
but they were doing a lot of them online for a while, and I didn't want to do online. I like being in person. Yeah, and again, having met you, definitely very personable. So online, we're done with that now. So we can all hang out in person. Yeah.
But I've yet to see the special. So, Alex, can you just tell us a little bit about it?
It was. It's about 50 minutes runtime, and it is a mix of different clips from animated shorts and features to live action, some of the Wonderful World of Disney moments. There was I couldn't tell you the specific things they all got clipped from, although it does show little captions in between at least the animated pieces. But I know it starts with one where Walt's there on Main Street with carolers. And I was just sitting here trying to, talk to myself about how they did it physically, because it looks like it's a recorded background. And then, I didn't know how old green screens are or that sort of thing. But, the classic Walt making a bit of a show to what he's going to introduce to you and tell you about. And then that is mixed in with narration from Diane Disney Miller and home movies of theirs from trips and Christmas around the holidays. And I think my favorite part of it, because when I first saw it was at the Disney Museum and they had an adjacent exhibit to go with it, was the Christmas cards that they sent and received from animators at the studios.
Oh,
of course, these Disney animators, they, why go buy a Hallmark card when you can draw Mickey Mouse yourself? And so it was actually, specific holiday drawings of Disney characters that they sent to their colleagues. And they actually had those cards at the museum, and you see a lot of them in this film. But it was cool. It kind of went chronologically. I was a little in and out as I watched it before we were recording here, but I noticed the part at the end. She gave some good insight on his directing of the pageantry at the Squaw Valley Olympics and how that whole thing happened, and an anecdote about how, the storm stopped and the sun came out, and Art Lechleitner said, "Man, you must have it in good with the guy upstairs or something." Only Disney is the guy who'd be able to produce like that.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, it was good, and I'll probably be watching it a couple more times over the holiday season.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just yet to check it out, but definitely going to check it out. So
yeah.
And then I'm sure we've all seen. I'm not sure if you've seen Dave, but have you seen the new Once Upon a Studio short that came out? For
yeah. I really liked that. Yeah, I thought that was very well done.
Nice little nod, not just to Walt, but like everybody. I forget the name of the animator that recently passed away. That was at the beginning, but
Bernie Madison.
Thank you. I knew
you worked for Disney for 7 decades, or within 7 decades, I believe.
Nobody else can hire him.
Yeah. Warner Brothers like, nah, you're good.
Not this clown. Yeah,
which is true. I do find a lot of animators have a time where they left and came back to Disney, so that is interesting.
Yeah,
I heard that a lot with Floyd Dorman. Yeah,
right. They work for a project and get laid off and work at another studio and come back, and it's being an animator is tough because it's very job to job. Yeah.
That whole little nod with Mickey looking at Walt was definitely a tender moment.
Did you hear the background on that? The Feed the Birds?
Oh yeah.
But that he actually went back into his office and played it on the same piano in Walt's office and recorded it specifically for that short.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. They spared no detail in that one. Speaking of MouseCon, Tony Anselmo, a voice of Donald Duck, was there. Somebody asked him about it, and he was saying that he not only did the voice, but he's also an animator, and he actually animated Donald in Mickey's Christmas Carol, and that's where him and Clarence Nash kind of bonded and passed the torch. But he actually did the animation for Donald in the special too, which was the first time he animated him in like over 20 years. So
wow.
Yeah, so it was cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, and I know we got a lot going on here, and I don't want to keep you too late, but I know you can't talk too much about it, but you were picked or asked to do a special Walt. I don't know if it's like a feature or something for the History Channel. Are you able to say at least like how the communication came through to get into that? Or
Yeah, I saw him filming it. I just snuck on the set and said, "Hey."
Nice.
I don't know how they found me, but they found me through my books and whatnot. And it's all I can say now. And as soon as I can talk about it, I will. They just said we can't yet, but it's going to be a show on the History Channel about Walt Disney, and it's the people that they're interviewing are all fantastic. Some great historians, some really good people from the company. So I was when I found out who else was in it, I'm like, oh, are you sure you want me in this? Like you've got like some legendary people. But it was fun. It was fun to take a couple hours and talk about it. We filmed it in a house that was used in American Horror Story.
Oh, nice.
I don't know why, because we just shot it in a hallway. So I watched the video of me, and I could have literally been anywhere. All right, you're going to rent this giant Victorian house, sure, why not? But it was fun. It was fun talking about Walt and Disney stuff. I will talk about it all day long. So yeah, ask my students; they hear too much about Disney.
Yeah, that's why you're already my favorite teacher. So
want to or not, they're going to hear about it.
I'll eventually, because me and Alex, we get to the Jungle Bird, but more often apart. So next time you're in town, we'll get some Walt stories at the Jungle Bird.
That would be awesome.
One of these times up here when you're passing. But
my sister still lives in Oregon, so I'm up there a couple times a year. I will stop by. I had a blast with you that one time. That was fun.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun. So
yeah.
And I guess before we let you go, like I said, thank you for joining. Alex, did you have any more questions or anything?
Since we're here talking about Walt celebrating his birthday and this great company that we are now celebrating 100 years of Disney animation, and what I think all of us here love the most is the parks and what he left us there. Do you have so I'll ask you and then I'll tell you mine, because you might even be able to elaborate on mine, but any specific Walt stories or anecdotes about the parks that are your favorite? And as I let you stew on that, I'll tell you mine. Is something I learned about during making of one of the trivias, is the distance between trash cans. And this all may be rumor or whatnot, but at least what I read was that the 30 feet between trash cans was calculated as that's about how far Walt would walk before he needed to get rid of the trash from his hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Disney Dan. He has a YouTube channel where he made a funny video called Walt Disney, the Glizzy King, and it talked about how hard it is to actually eat a hot dog within 30 feet.
That's true, though. They went to other theme parks like Knott's Berry Farm and stuff, and they like tracked how long people held stuff before they just dropped it on the ground. Yeah.
See, so that makes sense.
They had more science in it than you would think. Yeah.
And shout out to Beyond the Attraction when they're talking about the food and stuff, and they mentioned the trash
cans. They talked
cans.
about it in there too.
I've heard that story, but I never heard that Disney and Walt pretty much invented the flip.
On
the garbage can. I never knew that before, but it's like, I don't want people to see the garbage.
Yep.
And he wasn't worried about copywriting it or anything. It was
no. And my recent trip, I was literally looking at garbage cans a whole different way than before, just because of the flip door.
Yep, that's a Walt thing. Doritos were invented at Disneyland. All kinds of cool things.
I was surprised they didn't mention that in the episode.
Because Disney doesn't own Doritos. That's why. They're not making a dime off Doritos, so they're not going to plug it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
So do you have a favorite Walt Disney in the parks anecdote or story or fact?
The thing that comes to mind is his love of the rivers of America, and that he wanted it to always be busy. That's why he wanted 2 ships, and he wanted the canoes, and he wanted the Mike Fink keel boats, because he's like, this is about America on the move and progressing, and I want it to be busy. And so whenever I go in the lake is like, it just looks like a lake and there's nothing on it. I'm like, man, Walt would be mad. You got to get this river running. Right. So I just like picturing him there on Tom Sawyer's Island, watching all the boats go by. And that was something he was very much focused on. Like little details, like, okay, who cares if the river's busy? But that was important to him, that it looked busy. Yeah.
Yeah, one of my bucket list things, now that we go to the parks pretty frequently compared to the casual Disney fan. So like the bucket list things I want to do are attainable but random, and is eat an ice cream cone on the Mark Twain while going around. And I don't know, I think they let you bring beverages and stuff like that onto it.
Yeah, they
but
do.
The timing of getting the ice cream cone from Main Street, depending upon the time of year, making sure it doesn't melt or you have to like, eat it all before you get there. I know they do Sundays at the Stage Door Cafe, which I may settle for. But something about just eating the ice cream on the boat while it's going along the river, just slice of Americana, summertime, in an experience that kind of takes you out of being in a theme park and lets you feel like you're doing something different.
You could get one of those Mickey Mouse Mouse head-shaped ice cream things. Those things never melt.
Because, they over-freeze them, for your pleasure, I would say, in a sense. Because whenever I'm watching videos of people in Florida, they're always complaining about their ice cream melting immediately. And I was like, do you not get the Sub-Zero ice cream bars I get in California?
I always Mark Twain like 4 times before that thing was soft enough for you to chew without chipping a tooth.
I am an ice cream sandwich guy, and I swear every time I go, I think I've probably gotten old enough to this point, but as a kid, every time I would go, I'd bite right into it and then probably start crying because I didn't realize it was going to be an ice cube I was biting.
So cold. Yeah. That's awesome.
I was just going to kind of piggyback on what you're saying about the, the busyness of the rivers of America, and like that he sees it. That's why, he wants it. And it kind of goes back to something I heard about Storybook Land when I forgot what it was, one of the castles or something. And he wanted the windows to be stained glass.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's like, well, we can do it, make it a sticker. And he's like, no, I want it to be stained glass. He's like, well, the guests won't know that it's not real stained glass. He's like, well, I will
know. Yeah.
So next thing you know, it's stained glass in the little castle.
His attention to details, just amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, you see it go at the parks, and it's just every little detail so amazing. Shout out our good friend, Russell Flores. He did the, a Seen Unseen at Disneyland books, which basically stuff that's hidden in open sight for you to, and all the details. But I don't really have like an anecdote, but I love the fact that Disneyland is the only park in the entire world that Walt was at. You could take a numerous amount of pictures leaning on the rail at the train station, sitting on the bench by City Hall, standing under Jose, all these. I try to reenact some of these photos every once in a while, but the fact that for fans of Walt, the man and everything he's done, you can feel the presence at Disneyland opposed to the Magic Kingdom or Disney World, which I love when I go there, but you just don't feel.
It's different.
Yeah. It definitely is different. So.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's true.
I know we could probably talk about Walt Disney all day and all night, but I won't torture you or our listeners with that. But before we let you go, would you want to let our listeners know once again where they can find you, listen to you, buy your awesome bullet-laden art, which is amazing. So, and a stress reliever, I would assume. So.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I make a whole day out of it. I go shoot signs, and I go hang out in Palm Springs and go to the reef and have drinks and lunch and make a day out of it. Yeah, it makes the art even more fun. Yeah, you can find me on at Dr. Skipper Marley on Instagram. I'm on Etsy. You can type in Dr. Skipper on Etsy. You can find all my art there and my books. My books are also available on Amazon. But if you buy them on my Etsy store, I will autograph them for you so you can get it personalized. Great Christmas present. And there's my little plug for that. And then my podcast with Trevor Kelly is called The Jungle, and it comes out on the 1st and 15th of every month. And we talk about the Jungle Cruise and pop culture and whatever we happen to come across.
Such as the greatest prank ever by a Disney cast member on their final day.
Right.
Listen to it. That's all.
Yeah. It's a great story. And the podcast is fun because we don't tell each other what our topics are. So we're just kind of springing them on each other, which makes it more fun. Yeah.
But I mean, as a podcaster myself, like it is literally my favorite podcast. I'm like excited when it's a new episode. I'm like, yes, cool. I can listen to it at work. So.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
And I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I mean, me and Teeny Tal on Tiki Cash were like, oh, did you see the new episode's out? And I was excited. So
yeah, awesome.
And I got a shout out. I'm going to order because Tiki Oasis, you brought out the Tiki Mug traveling case. Keep safe because Jungle Bird, you can bring your own Tiki mugs, and I don't want any grubby hands on any ones I choose to bring. So
yeah,
nice little case, and the art, everything's really cool, and of course, like I said, the book. So
awesome! Thank you so much. It's a lot of fun to do. Yeah,
absolutely. And like I say, I'm glad we're friends. Can't wait for all of us to hang out at the Jungle Bird one of these times.
That would be a blast. I'll be through town. I'll let you know.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I believe that is it for episode 146. We are at the beginning of Christmas season, so there's a lot of Disney content on Disney Plus, new movies out, the Christmas of Walt, great documentary also from the Walt Disney Family Museum.
25 Days of Christmas on Freeform.
Oh, I know. I pretty much spent like half of this past weekend after Thanksgiving rewatching Christmas Vacation and Elf between football games.
On 24 hours a day, I believe, on Friday and Saturday.
And Fred Claus, which I think is an underrated Christmas movie. I love that movie.
Okay.
But thank you guys for listening. Alex, can you shout out our crew one more time?
Of course, as always, we love the DU crew. So big shout outs going to you, Sean, John, Alfredo, Sasquatch, Florida Jen, and Superfan Jen, Monique, Tyler, and Wedge Antilles. If you want to join the illustrious ranks of these fine people, go over to patreon.com/DU crew and see what DU has to offer you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Nice.
So we will catch you guys next time. I believe we will have a trip report from Ryan, who will be down at Disneyland eating all the Christmas food and all that good
stuff. Give me my Tiki mug, Ryan.
I know. Oh, yeah. Did you see that Tiki mug at Trader Sam's?
I did, yeah.
Holy crap. That is the best one that they've done so far.
Christmas version of the shipwreck.
It is so bright. I want to see it in person. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to get that. Ryan, if you're listening.
Ryan.
And if you're listening to this episode, definitely check out our bonus episode with Tony Luca and Jennifer McGill of the Mickey Mouse Club as they get ready for the upcoming concert in Nashville on December 10th. Part of the Always in the Club fans of the Mickey Mouse Club from the 80s and 90s. The show I watched as a kid. So really cool Christmas album. Cool. Why? Because it's Christmas. Check that out and show them some love. And we will see you guys next couple weeks from now. So
big year-end holiday special.
Yes, the holiday special.
Nice.
The DU holiday special.
Absolutely. Well, David, thanks for coming by. People, buy some art, buy some books. It's Christmas time. And thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Love it. Happy to be here.
And everybody have a good night or good morning whenever you listen to the show. Talk to you later.
Thanks.